This is episode 48 of the Out of the Minds podcast. I'm Sean Oakley.
And I'm Sam Cooper, and I've got a game. It's a quickie.
But before we get into that, I'm just going to go, happy birthday to us. Happy birthday,
to us.
We've been boring you for a year. Happy birthday to us. Well, hey, yes, it's actually slightly late. I think last week was a calendar year, but we missed it. So we'll do it this week. And yes, we've clearly missed a couple of episodes because we're on 48. But
yeah, so I think we missed like Christmas, didn't we?
I think we missed Christmas, and there's been a couple that we've missed for various reasons. But yeah, just like to say thank you to everybody who listens. If we weren't getting downloads and listens and views on the YouTube, we wouldn't keep doing this. So yeah, just a shout out to all of you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So yeah, on that note, we are looking at one of Sam's round 3 Kyber match this evening, which is a quick one, so we'll do it first, and then we'll lightly touch on the points updates and the rules changes. Give our 2 cents, I suppose.
Yeah,
way, if you don't care about what we think, you can tune out halfway through.
Yeah, because we have 2 lists here, but the next round of Kyber will not have these 2 lists because with the points update, everything changes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure yours is still legal, right?
No, Coronets makes it illegal, and doubling the price of Outmaneuver and increasing the price of Shield Upgrade makes Grievous illegal.
Okay. But your pilots are legal.
My pilots are all legal.
I mean, honestly, with that Grievous build, you just drop the Shield Upgrade and take Outmaneuver, right?
That's what I did. Although I'm wondering if I keep the Shield Upgrade and have like a 2 to 4 point talent.
Maybe.
Either way.
Maybe. But yeah, so give us the lowdown, Sam.
So, my list is currently the same. It's Pre-Vizsla, Grievous, and 4 Trade Federation drones. And my opponent is rocking up with the Republic. So I've dodged the Republic for the first couple of rounds, and finally they have arrived, and they are scary.
Now, I believe you played this game on Scott's stream.
Yeah, played this game on Scott's Hexiled gaming stream, and it was a blast.
I say you did message us to let us know that you were playing beforehand, and like, well, hey, come on and watch me get creamed by the Republic.
Yeah, because I was afraid of this matchup.
I believe your game lasted almost as long as it took me to drive home.
Yeah, 3 rounds.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you which way it goes, but
yeah. I reckon if you're listening to this, you'll have a good idea at the end of round 1 which way this goes. I'll give you a spoiler there.
Fair enough.
But I was genuinely afraid of this matchup because I'll run through his list quickly. So we've got Barriss Offie in the 7B with CLT, Patience, and Magpulse warheads. We've got Mace Windu in the 7B. No, not 7B, the Delta 7. They're both in Delta 7s with CLT, Shattering Shot, and R7. Is R7A7? Or no?
Yeah, that's the crit droid.
Yeah, that's the R7A7, the crit droid.
Yeah.
We've got Click in the V-Wing with Besh, Elusive, R3 Astromech, and Coronets. Wolf in the Arc with Enduring, Suppressive Gunner, an R4P17 Astromech, I think, or an R4P Astromech. It's the I can't remember which one exactly. It's the one that you spend a charge to reduce the difficulty of a maneuver.
R4P.
Yeah, and synchronized targeting the mod. And then we've got Hawk in the LART with Enduring, Barrage Rockets, Ghost Company, and 7th Fleet Gunner. So everyone here is I4. And the reason I was afraid of this is because I kind of have been going with I outnumber the people and I run around the board grabbing objectives, but I don't really outnumber this person. And pound for pound, his ships are better than most of mine.
Yeah, like with 2 Deltas and a V-Wing, he's got the speed and maneuverability to zoom around.
Yeah,
and then a LAT and an Arc is a hefty chunk of a. Hey, we're going to rock up and throw some dice at you.
Yeah. So on to the objectives, and I got first player. So I set up my home objective as far down towards my end as possible and in the center, because I want a Vulture Droid to do a 2 or 3 straight, land on a rock that I'm going to place nearby, and he's going to claim it forever. We're playing Assault of the Satellite Array, by the way, in case I haven't mentioned that.
Yeah, that's cool. 'Cause that's a long way down he has to come if he wants to claim that one. Then.
And then my opponent places his objective as I'm looking at the board from my perspective, in the top right of the board, about 2 and 2 in the center. Well, maybe 2.5 and 2.5. Like he's close to the center of his that top right hand quadrant essentially. Yeah. And then I place my objective that needs to go on his side of the board as far towards my side as possible and as far to the left as I can get it. Because again, I just want a Vulture Droid to go there and sit there, and if it's as far out as possible, it's a little awkward to get to. And then my opponent pretty much does the same thing on the other side. Basically, as close to him as possible and as far out as possible. When it comes to rocks, I drop a finger rock right next to my home objective, and when I get to deployment, a Vulture Droid will sit in front of it, and he will park there for the entire game.
Just out of curiosity, did you pick the finger one because it's the smallest? You know you can land on it straight away, and then it gives you, I suppose, bigger ones to create more of a handicap for your opponent.
Yes. Okay. Because I know I can land on it, and it sort of, so the way I was thinking was like, I know I can land on it, and that it just means that the bigger ones can be deployed like in annoying spots.
I ask because there's a good chance I'm breaking out my Separatist stuff soon, so I'm looking for hints and tips.
There is an argument to pick the biggest one, and that way you know you'll be obstructed on defense.
Yeah,
because it's a little. I think depending on how you do it, you can overshoot with the Vulture Droid and be unobstructed, but it kind of doesn't matter. Then I can't remember the exact order these rocks are placed in, but I remember 2 that I placed. I placed one of my opponent's debris clouds, and I placed a second big rock. So there's a giant rock in the dead center of the board, just to the bottom left of the center objective. Then I placed a large debris about 1.5 above the center objective. The idea being that my opponent can't just jet towards it and get it. He has to come at a slight angle. Then there's another debris towards the left, near the left objective, a new Mandalorian asteroid, about in the center of the bottom left quadrant of the board. And then I placed my other big rock on the far right, as close to the far right objective that's on my side as possible, so I can just land a Vulture Droid there and sit there forever. When it came to deployment, I literally set up Vulture Droids to go to the objectives they were going to be sitting on forever. So I've got one Vulture on the very far right, and his goal is he's going to 5 straight, 3 hard, and hopefully be past my opponent and contesting the furthest objective away. I've got one Vulture who's going to do a 4 or 5 straight, land on a rock, and contest an objective for the rest of the game. A Vulture in the center, who's going to do a 3 straight and contest my home objective for the rest of the game. And then a Vulture on the far left who's going to do a 5 straight, and then probably either a 3 hard or a 2 bank heading towards the far left objective. So I've got my eyes on at least 3 objectives turn 1, and I'm gunning for another objective turn 2. Notice I'm leaving the center one out, because it just doesn't seem good. And so once I deployed that, I then deploy Vizsla and Grievous, actually, because I have first player. So Vizsla is on the right-hand side of my deployment, and he's just aiming at a gap between these 2 rocks, heading towards the center, because he's a big ship, so he can contest quite a few things. And Grievous is on the far left, basically as an escort to that far left Vulture Droid, so that if my opponent sets up a Jedi to just snipe that Vulture, they have to deal with Grievous as well.
Yeah.
And then my opponent surprises me by lining his entire list up on his left, my right, just literally along the edge of the board, facing down towards Vizsla and 3 of my Vulture Droids.
I mean, so it looks like he's lined up for a joust with the gauntlets.
Yeah, he has.
But, I mean, to be fair, if he can get both bullseyes on the deltas, the arc, the V-wing, and probably not the lat, because I know saying that you 7th fleet this, the first turn, and then have the lat. You could do a sizable chunk of damage to that gauntlet, and if dice go your way, you could take it off.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me is that I sort of get what my opponent was going for. Is like there on the objectives on the board, there's 4 on the right hand side and 1 on the left, and so he's basically set up his list. He's like, my opponent has set up Grievous on the far left, so I'm just going to be like, well, I'm going to take the entire right, and here's 4 objectives. Grievous has to come to me.
Yeah.
And that's where we are at the start of the game.
Okay.
So I'm not unhappy with this. I'm not unhappy with this because the way I see it, if the gauntlet can last a few turns, I'm going to rack up objective points.
Yeah. And my assumption is you do what you're going to do with the droids anyway, and you, because your opponent's set up there, you turn Grievous in to come and try and get a flank on them.
I do that, but I don't do it with a turn. I'll start playing, and we'll get to the end of turn. I'll get to the end of the movement as we speed up.
Probably do ×4 on this if you want, Sam.
Okay.
Just so that people can keep up with us.
So yeah, as you can see, I'm setting all the dials. I believe Vizsla ends up doing a 3 straight because I'm a little nervous. I don't want to go too far into this gauntlet pile. So my opponent wins priority, but it doesn't matter. Well, it only matters for Grievous because his guys are all I4 and Grievous is I4. So priority is actually the does Grievous go last or before him?
That is fairly important for Grievous, though.
So I like that everyone does that. So interestingly, actually, here you go. That finger rock where he is, my Vulture droid on that rock is going to get obstructed defense from basically everything.
Yeah, 2 straight, right?
Yeah, it was 2 straight.
Yeah. Cool.
Then basically my opponent's list all does various 3s and 4s forwards. So yeah, so Mace Windu does a 5 straight, spends a force for a boost and takes a focus. And the rest of his list
I don't mind
does a 3
that,
straight.
apart from the fact there's a rock in the way.
Well, this is the thing. He's got Shattering Shot.
Oh, okay. That's true.
And then Grievous does a 5 straight and boosts. Because that is the only way I can claim my far left objective on turn 1. And then turn 2, the Vulture can get it and Grievous can leave.
Yeah.
So everyone has moved. Like I said, my Vultures have all gone to their objectives, and my opponent's list has basically all done a 3 or 2 straight and taken a focus. Click has taken locks onto Mace Windu and Wolf. I don't see what Barris has done. I think she tried for a lock and was out of range of everyone. And then we come to Mace Windu. He did a 5 straight, spend a force for a boost, lining up a bullseye, threw a rock onto Vizsla. And here we go. So he umana's about who he shoots because he has range 2 into a Vulture droid, or range 3 obstructed in the bullseye into Vizsla.
So if you spend a force, you guarantee 2 focus results there.
Yeah,
but you're still only throwing 2 dice on top of that, so 4 dice against 4 dice.
Yeah. It'd be 4 on 4. And Vizsla does have a focus under there. Anyone watching, I took a focus action.
I think, honestly, that I'd be tempted to take the Vulture droid.
Yeah, he ums and ahs about this a lot. And then he eventually says, like, I think he basically takes that maybe he rolls high, maybe I roll low. This is a decent chance to get a giant chunk of damage, because he only has force mods against the Vulture, so it's literally 2 on 2.
Yeah.
And the Vulture basically Vultures aren't like priority targets when it comes down to it.
Oh no, I understand the reasoning behind going for the gauntlet. I just think I would have waited to be able to set up a next turn, maybe take a lock as well.
Yeah,
but that's me.
So he pings the Vulture, then decides actually I'll go into Vizsla. He rolls blank focus hit. Sorry, he rolls blank hit, adds the focus for CLT, and then decides to just leave it as is.
Okay.
Just 1 hit, and I roll 1 evade. So that could have gone pretty nastily for me. But that's hindsight. So then I trigger Zam. I take a target lock onto Mace Windu with Zam and get a charge back. And then Pre-Vizsla now has a range 3 obstructed shot into Mace Windu, but Pre-Vizsla has trick shot. And Pre-Vizsla has his pilot ability. So I'm throwing a range 3 advanced proton torpedo.
Yeah, and that's possibly another reason not to do the shot, because it's almost guaranteed you have that Zam card, and you should thank me. So
yeah, and
that's
so I roll
nice
2 hits. I roll 2 hits, 2 crits in a blank. I spend the lock and turn it into a hit. So I've got 3 hits, 2 crits.
Ouch.
My opponent rolls 1 evade, 1 focus, 3 blanks.
Yeah, that's because that's what Jedi do when they have that many grids.
Yeah.
So you spend.
He spends a force. He spends a force. He takes the shield damage. Then the first crit is direct hit, and the second crit is fuel leak. But it doesn't matter. Mace Windu is dead.
Yeah, that's the problem when you're taking 2 crits on a 3-hull chip. If the first one's a direct or fuel leak, or the second one's a direct, then
yeah. And so, funnily enough for me, this was a lesson that always set your Zam card, even if you don't think it's going to happen. Always set a Zam card. Because imagine if I just didn't, because I didn't think shooting was happening on first turn.
I know, I forget quite a lot, actually.
Like, even if you're absolutely positive nothing's going to happen, because, like, there was no... I just set it because I was like, oh, yeah, Zam card. I didn't actually think it would matter. And wow, boy, does it. Like... And yeah, so I've killed Mace Windu in turn 1. Yeah, so he's worth 4 points, and I have 3 objectives, so I'm up to 7-1, because my opponent is sitting on his home objective. I get a Vizsla charge back, and so we can do it again shortly, because every single ship in my opponent's list is a target for the Vizsla ability.
Yeah, Vizsla would be good.
Yeah. And yeah, so this is where the game gets interesting, because basically my moves are kind of set in stone here. 2 vultures are stopping. My far left vulture is going to be doing a two bank to just claim the objective when Grievous goes, and Grievous is just sitting in perfect flanking position.
Yeah.
He's gonna 3 bank, possibly I think he just focuses because I'm like, well, I'm here now.
Yeah, and your opponent doesn't really have anywhere to go except forward.
Yeah. What Vizsla's going to do is he's going to do. I believe it's a 2 or 3 straight, and then he reinforces the front because that's a nasty amount of shots coming in. And the far right vulture, the guy who was going to go for the back objective, he does a 5 straight, barrel rolls to the left, and calculates, because I was trying to block Hawk from coming and beating my vulture on the far right objective.
Yeah.
Because all Hawk has to do is get near it, and he just wins against my vulture. And I figured if I could block it, maybe the firing arc of the Hawk will not quite give the rerolls to all the targets he wants. I assign a Zam card. And then, yeah, everyone goes. Lots of stops. We got 2 bank on the left and calculate. Vizsla does a... I can't see the dial because I placed it somewhere super. That looks to me like a 2 straight. And I reinforce the front.
Lots of stops that aren't, in fact, actually stops.
Yeah. They are, in fact, like nothing abilities. And so Grievous does a 3 bank and focuses, because I got a pretty good idea where the enemy Jedi ships are going to be. Hawk, I believe, does a 2 straight, bumps into my blue vulture and takes a red focus. Wolf does a 2 straight and focuses. Click does a 2 straight, reacquires a lock onto Vizsla and Wolf, and then Barriss does a 2 straight and takes a target lock.
So he obviously thinks you're likely to shoot Wolf there, hence the lock on him to, or maybe just to dissuade you from shooting.
And yeah, so this is where we've ended up. Is Vizsla's in trouble? But I got a good flanking shot with Grievous, and Vizsla at range 1 is still dangerous. And I'm gonna
you're taking. Well, I mean, you're taking 4 shots, but the lat one isn't likely to do much. It's going to be.
The lat has a barrage rocket.
All right, fair enough. I really should listen when you run through the list.
Yeah.
But even so, I suppose double modder because of the lat ability.
Yeah.
But you're reinforced against everyone, so a one shot here is unlikely.
Yeah.
Very
So here's where some interesting things happen. And like I said, like I will get to pick and choose out of all the people who shoot Fizzler, which range 1 target lock do I want?
yeah.
Thanks to Zam. But we go on, and the first thing that happens is Grievous takes a shot. And so here's where I make a big miscommunication error. Is I ping Barris,
Yeah.
but I believe I say click out loud.
Oh, okay.
It's my opponent heard click. So I think I'm rolling into Barris, 3 dice outmaneuver. And my opponent thinks I'm rolling into click, although he's rolled 1 less dice than he should have, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. Because that was a range 3 into click. But I think I said I pinged Barris. I think I said range 2 into click or something along those lines. But either way, we both think I'm shooting a different target. I get 3 hits with my focus, and my opponent completely blanks out. And you see, he puts his card onto click, but I haven't paid attention to that, and I think I've just dealt 2 damage. I've just dealt 3 damage to Barris.
Yeah.
Which is why I do a silly thing in a second.
Well, I'm assuming it's shoot Barris with the...
Yeah, with Vizsla, yeah.
Yeah.
Then my opponent basically does the sensible thing, and he Barris's Mag Pulse Warhead into Vizsla.
Jam away the...
And that's going to jam away the reinforce. He gets 2 hits, spends a force for a 3rd. I roll Jackal, basically. I cancel 1 with my reinforce, get a charge back on Zam, but the reinforce is now gone. And so here's some food for thought, Sean. I could have focused instead of reinforcing.
You could have.
And that's fine. And although the reinforce technically didn't do anything, what it actually did was made sure that Barris didn't fire that range 1 7th Fleet gunner bullseye shot. And I'm wondering if there's an argument that she should have done that anyway.
Possibly, because she's put 1 crit through, which is going to go on a shield, so that's irrelevant. She's jammed. Mag Pulse gives you a
deplete is relevant. Yeah. The deplete is relevant.
See, that deplete as well. Like, if she put 5 dice through on you with the 7th Fleet, and you know, you've got to reinforce. Maybe she does a couple of extra damage. I mean, at most she does 2, 3. You know, if you blanked out and she got really lucky, she would do 4 extra damage.
Yeah,
because you'd have 5v a blank out. But losing that reinforce almost guarantees
that everyone else is going to do a ton.
Everyone else is going to do at least 1, which is 3, and it's denying you. So actually, I think the Mag Pulse is probably the correct call.
That's kind of where I landed up, I was like, and that makes my reinforce the more correct call because at least it forced her to do a thing.
I believe that's the second time you've had a reinforce jammed off you.
Yeah. I did think that. So I trigger Zam, I get a charge back, and I put a lock onto Barris. Because remember, I think I've dealt 3 damage to her, and that she's on her last legs. I put the deplete on the gauntlet, and we sort of put it below the gauntlet so you can see it under its oversized wings. Hawk throws a barrage rocket into Vizsla, gets a focus and 2 blanks, uses the Lart ability to get 2 rerolls.
Nice.
And converts it into 3 hits. Then I get 1 evade, so plink plink. Vizsla is taking the damage. Then we've got Click. This is where he 7th Fleet Gunners. He 7th Fleet Gunner onto Click.
Okay,
and importantly, for me, spends Click's target lock on Vizsla. Because he rolls 2 hits and 2 focuses.
So he can't deny you your range 1.
He can't deny me my range 1 bonus, assuming I don't shoot at Wolf.
Yeah.
So it spends the lock and gets another hit. So that's 3, and I get 1 evade. So 2 more damage into Vizsla. Then we've got Wolf, 4 dice, 1 hit, 1 focus. Lart rerolls. he has a focus, and he's like, "Ooh, do I do it? Do I dart?"
Oh, I think you spend it with 1 green. I think you spend the focus for 2 hits.
He does. 4 damage. I get 1 evade, so I take another 3.
So the fact
So Vizsla is hurting, not dead,
fact,
but hurting.
The fact that the Lark gives rerolls and Click had a lock and Wolf has a focus, I do think removing that reinforce is the correct call, because he's going to get high red output on 3 shots as opposed to 1.
Yeah. So then Vizsla goes into Barris. I'm depleted, so 3 dice. I get 3 hits. There's 1 evade, 2 focuses, and I'm like, okay, cool, you're dead. And then my opponent's like, no, shield and a damage. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't. Never mind.
Okay, but he's still got two ships hurting.
Yeah, this confused the heck out of the Hexiled stream. It's like, why did Sam shoot 2 different ships? And I was like, I didn't think I did. So I go into Barris with the Vulture Droid, roll 2 hits, and clean up that ship.
Okay.
So the net result is the same.
But, yeah.
But, like, the net result of what I wanted to do is the same. It just took one more shot. Then I do the range 0 into Hawk. I don't convert anything because I forget how range 0 rules work. Then I have 4 objectives because Vizsla's contesting the center 1, which beats out Wolf.
Yeah.
So I have incorrectly totted myself up to 15 because when I asked how many points Barris was, my opponent said 4, so I added that. But Scott straightens it out.
Yeah.
In a second, you'll see me tick down. Yeah,
she's 4 now.
You'll see me tick the score down in a second. But I'm like, at the minute, 15-2, and then it's like, nope, 14-2. But yeah, it's not looking good for my opponent.
I mean, realistically, at this point, you've got such a lead. You need 5 to win, and where your droids are, kill 1 ship, and you've effectively won.
Yeah, and Click is on 1 health, and Grievous is right there.
Exactly. Like, he's only got 3 points. In fact, they're at least all 4, aren't they? 4 of 5/5. So.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because.
So we roll for priority. I have priority. And thinking on last week, I don't drop my Coronet. I assign a Zam Card. And my opponent drops a Coronet. Out of Click. Covering that back objective. Which makes... We have a major issue with the bomb dropper. And then Scott sorts it out.
That was a lot of options on that bomb dropper.
Yeah, it was just all the options you can possibly have. And I, of course, fly immediately straight onto the Coronet.
Yes! Yes! Oh, I love it. Oh.
But I'm not that bothered by it, because the Vulture Droid is exactly where I want him to be, and he's now Ioned, so next turn he'll be exactly where I want him to be as well.
Yeah. Just tokenless.
It's tokenless, but you know what? If my opponent is shooting that Vulture Droid instead of the people in front of him, that's fine.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And then basically all the other Vulture Droids stay on their rocks, and the guy on the far left goes and finds a rock.
Do you go and block with Grievous? Oh, they're saying that now you've done that bank with Vizsla. Makes me think that just gets them.
Yeah, so I did a 1 bank with Vizsla because I just needed to clear the stress, and I figured I'd take a red focus, knowing I would bump. Like, I didn't think there was a way I didn't bump.
It's fine. You have your rear arc.
Yeah. So I clear the stress, take the red focus. Then Grievous just does a 2 straight and focuses.
Try and catch Wolf if he goes slow.
Catch Wolf, catch Click. Ideally, I want Click. Just because if I kill Click, I probably won.
Yeah.
Wolf is a 4K.
Yeah.
Kind of wish I dropped that con on that.
I mean, where the gauntlet was, you either
maybe it
stop.
Wouldn't have hit.
Oh no, you're stressed, so you don't stop. So yeah, 4K is pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to call, but.
Yeah, no. The Wolf is a 4K. Gets a stress. The Lart does, I believe, like a 1 or 2 straight. Takes a focus rotate, and then Click bumps into the gauntlet because he tried to do a hard 2 into it. Grievous shoots into Click. I get hit, crit, which means Click is dead because outmaneuver.
Yeah, I know, I get that, but Your reds have been pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And my opponent rolls blank focus. And click is dead.
Yeah.
Puts me up to 17. And then click rolls into the gauntlet, gets hit crit. I roll 2 evades.
You're on 14, right? That should put you up to 18.
Okay, I didn't know how many points click was, so I just guessed.
I'll double check, but I was pretty sure click was worth. He might have been 3 before the points adjustment. I thought he was a 4, but.
Then the Lart rolls range 1 into the gauntlet. Hit crit. I get blank focus, spend my focus for 1 evade, and I live. I'm on like 1 health on the gauntlet at this point. Then the 7th Fleet Gunner, double tap into Grievous. Range 3, I evade it. Then Wolf, range 2 into the gauntlet.
Oh, that must be a tight range 2.
Yeah, it is a tight range 2. 1 hit, 1 focus. Rerolls, I get 2 evades.
Oh, of course you do.
Yep.
Can't even give him the consolation prize.
Then I spend Zam to shoot out the bum at him.
Oh, please tell me you ping the visitor charge for.
Yeah, I ping the visitor charge. I roll hit crit.
Okay, well, out of hand.
Out of hand, yep.
Oh man.
Then I shoot again. Well, I don't shoot again. Actually, my opponent leaves. He just says, I surrender. You've already won on objectives. I quickly tot up the points, and I have scored 4 of the objectives to my opponent's 1. So I go to 21-3.
Ouch.
And I win the game.
So that was quite an interesting one to watch, actually, because with the exception of the mace shot, I don't think your opponent's greens were terrible. There were a lot of focus results in there that he couldn't mod.
I think if I remember slightly, my opponent did bring up the dice stats a couple of times in the game. And I think I was like +4 on the reds as far as I could remember.
Yeah. I think the reds were hot on a couple of crucial rolls.
Yeah. I was +4 on reds, and I think my opponent was slightly down on greens. So when I looked at it, I didn't feel super bad.
Yeah. But
admittedly, the way this game went did kind of feel super bad to win. Yeah. But like,
but I
can't make the dice be balanced.
No. But I don't think that's what lost your opponent the game. I feel setup lost your opponent the game. Or setup and the boost with mace.
Yeah.
If he'd waited, and you've played me for years, you know how aggressive I used to be with Jedi and how much that would backfire and they'd burn. If he'd waited an extra turn,
you could probably pick up a Vulture Droid.
Or I say, take that shot on the Vulture Droid so you're not triggering the Zam for the lock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would have kept back and then come in on the next turn. But that's the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, but I guess it's really hard. I guess I'm guessing my opponent was from Hawaii, so he'd just woken up, so he might just not have quite clocked that trick shot Zam pre-Vizsla was going to throw a lot of dice back at him, or he was like, "But I'll have 5, so it'll be evens."
Yeah. The problem is you've got a lot more health to cover a bad roll.
Yeah.
And I also think, personally, I would have set up one of the Jedi, probably Mace, actually, to be fair, to go after that Vulture. And yes, you've set up Grievous to deal with it, but because you're both the same initiative, he wouldn't be going first every single turn.
Yeah.
And the Delta obviously has got the double reposition, so that if you plan for going first, and if you need to barrel roll boost so you can go where you think Grievous isn't, you can play that game. Because that stops Grievous coming in and flanking the rest of his list.
Yeah, and then because once I got Grievous into that position, I was like, this is kind of plain sailing, because I don't see a way I can not be outmaneuvering Grievous re-rolling.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was round 3. So I'm 3-0 in Kyber. And then a little thing happened. The Rogue and the Clone Z95, they're sort of released, and we got some points.
Yeah, so let's have a. We won't go too in depth into them. Just pick out a couple of bits that we've. Before we do points, though, should we talk about the game changes?
Yes, we should actually,
So,
because there are some big ones.
yeah, let's go with Ion first, shall we?
Yeah.
I don't mind the changes. I'll straight out say it.
I like the changes because, and this is the reason. It now there is less feels bad. And we should explain what the changes are quickly before we continue. Because when I can't remember which pilot got released that made them change the rules, but now when you're ioned, you still set a dial. You just don't assign it essentially.
Yeah.
And now what happens is you still set your dial, and the bearing of the maneuver you set, you either do a 1 straight if you've done a straight maneuver or a stop, or you do a 1 bank to either side, depending on which bearing of maneuver you've set on your dial. Now, the original reason you do that is because a pilot came out who can remove ion tokens before he goes. So they had to be like, okay, you can set your dial, and if you somehow lose the ion before you go, you use that.
Now, I have heard some argument online that there is a bit in there that says ion ships are not assigned a dial. But as far as I'm concerned, that's a leftover from FFG that AMG have missed in the...
Yeah.
Because it very clearly states in their ions bit that you have a dial. I think it actually says you assign a dial, but what it says is you skip your reveal dial step.
Yes.
What makes me interesting, though, is you skip the step, and then it says you flip the dial. So they'll probably need an FAQ on it, but is that still a revealed
My guess is no, it's not.
No. Is how I take it, but I know there's a couple of people that I've seen that are like, well, that's your revealed maneuver. So if you want to do the 1 straight and say you're flying against Rick, dial in a 5 straight.
There is an argument for that, but because to be honest though, because you don't reveal your dial, surely Rick doesn't work against you anyway because you do not have a dial to reveal.
Well, that's what I mean. It's
meaningless.
There is some ambiguity to that, but
but
no, I like the banks because you're still punished for it. It's still a good thing to get your opponent ioned. They're doing a 1-speed maneuver, but it's not just I'm going to 1 straight onto that rock in front of me. Maybe the 1 bank makes it round, and things like that.
The reason I liked it is so now it's very hard to force someone off the board. And I understand that some people may think, but I want to be able to do that. But it is just kind of feels bad when you have like a Y-wing with an ion cannon just floating behind you, being like, you don't get to play the game.
Yeah.
Basically.
Cavill throwing 5 ions at you.
Yeah, and I like that because it doesn't give you many options, but the point is you won't go off the board, and maybe your opponent guesses wrong which way you're going.
Yeah. So talking about board edges and obstacles, the obstacle changes of when you land on one, the next turn when you leave, you don't suffer the damage from the same obstacle.
Yes, that's interesting.
And again, I have to admit, I'm a fan of this one. I've got, I suppose, to the stage now where I don't land on too many rocks unintentionally, but it does happen. But also from a new player point of view, rocks are much more, obstacles are much more dangerous now. You get much worse consequences, but again, it's about the feels bad. You're not getting the feels bad of having to suffer it twice because you're a millimeter back and something's poking out. And the game we talked about, must be 3 or 4 weeks ago, where you landed that tri-fighter and had a millimeter of rock, and we knew he was dead because he was taking, he's still in the game, you're still in the game,
but we know he's dead.
but that's what I mean. But he wouldn't be under the new rules, so
interesting. The other good thing for Separatists is now when you ion a Vulture Droid on a rock, that 1 straight the Vulture Droid does next turn. I can't remember if that's how it works. They just do the 1 straight. You don't hurt yourself on the rock you're on.
Oh, because they would class as an overlap, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they are overlapped on their own rock that they ignored, and then when they do their one straight off the rock, they don't overlap. That they don't suffer the effects of the rock they were on.
Ooh, I wonder about that because if it says you ignore the rock, then maybe you don't class as being on the rock.
I think you are still at range 0 of the rock because that's how the struts work, right?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Who knows?
I say that'll be that's above our pay grade to work that one out. But yeah. So yeah, they were it's quite interesting changes, I suppose, to the game. Were there any other
Scenario
game bits?
changes.
Oh yes, scenario changes.
So they finally, I say finally, they've differentiated some of the scenarios. Scramble the Transmissions only has 3 objectives.
Yeah, so you're gonna
So now all the scenarios aren't just kind of clones of each other.
Yeah, and you have to place off your
you can
opponent's
only
edge.
and you can only score from scenarios from turn 2 onwards.
Yeah, so no rushing to grab the center one.
No doing literally what I did this game that we just watched. No grabbing 3 objectives turn 1.
I mean, to be fair though, you probably
I'd still likely do exactly what I did under the new rules because I just want to set up for turn 2. But the point is, I can't race away.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to scramble, because you just set 1 now plus the center, and you have to set that from your opponent's board edge. I think that's going to produce some more interesting setups, I suppose, than the actual 5, because you'll be like, well, I can put it as far away from my opponent's board edge, keep it in the center, we'll all engage in there, and, I'll try and grab as many as I can if you're action efficient like the Rebels and you've got spare actions to be able to do that. Or maybe you go, well, I put it as close as my opponent's board edge as possible. Yeah, he's probably going to grab it. Or maybe it's that fast that he goes past it turn 1 and I've got a fast ship that can 5 straight, grab it turn 2.
All of a sudden, that Tri-Fighter 5 straight slam is looking pretty sweet.
Yeah. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. I look forward to trying it. Salvage mission. You can now advance maneuver while you're towing.
Yes. Gunships maybe aren't useless. They are, but they're slightly better. You can now side slip.
You cannot boost barrel roll, cloak, gain a cloak token.
Should be case in point. These are all the actions. So
yes,
your new Striker and Reaper ailerons, who are just do a boost. You don't drop the salvage box after you've done that.
Baby Anakin in the N1, his pre-move barrel roll is not an action, so he can
Nantex barrel roll boosts and barrel roll tractor and boost tractor are not actions, so they can do that. So Nantex have got a little bit better.
It does tickle me that like my Delta 7 can't boost while it's towing, but it can do a 2 sloop.
Look, just don't worry too much about it. I actually prefer this restriction.
Yeah, no, I do.
Because I think the not being able to do advanced maneuvers artificially hamstrings more ships than that, and the not being able to do boosts and barrels means you can't just grab it and then, haha, I'm I6, I've got it forever.
Yeah. It means you've got to be a bit more careful with your dial planning but yeah, it should be interesting. And then I don't think that Assault at the Satellite Ray got tweaked, did it? Apart from the turn 2 scoring.
Nope. It's just turn 2 scoring now.
They have changed the scoring for chance encounter.
Yeah. If you are within range 2 of the center, as long as you've got anyone there, you get a point each.
Yeah.
And if you're the only one there, you get an extra point.
So I have to admit, that kind of makes me feel like they are very much enticing you to a central...
This is fight around the middle.
Yeah. But then do you play that game? If you don't, you let your opponent grab a couple, but then you get a better engage and kill something, you probably recoup those points. So, yeah. And on that note,
interesting.
Let's jump into some points.
Vultures got better.
So, I was just about to say the twos got slaughtered, apart from vultures and TIE fighters.
But I actually like this.
Yeah, it makes Empire and Separatists the swarmy factions again, and that was their identity.
Yeah, at least that was part of their identity that kind of got lost, right?
Yeah. So a lot of the vultures, I say a lot of the vultures, there are now
lesser used vultures.
Yeah, there are now 3 vultures at 2 points each.
Yeah. Both generics, the Howard Child prototype, and DFS 081. Yeah, but I feel like nowadays you're never going to see Trade Federation drone again.
Well, yeah, because they still have no loadout.
They still have no loadout, and Separatist drone at IVE3 has 3 loadout, so you can slap a Discord missile on him.
And I have.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, there is an argument for being I1. That is, I will not deny that there is an argument for being an I1 blocker.
And that's why you bring the How Shell prototypes.
Yes, because they have 4 loadout points, and they're I1, and they have an ability that wants you to bump into the enemy.
What's their ability? I can never remember.
After an enemy in your bullseye at range 0 to 2 declares another friendly ship as the defender, you may perform a calculate or target lock action.
Ooh,
Back in the day when you couldn't shoot people at your own range 0, this was the we want to bump, and so that when the guy we've bumped with shoots someone else,
yeah,
we get to do another action.
It's
a little less good nowadays, but
even now it's like, oh, shoot someone and I get an action, or shoot me and you can't mod. So
yeah,
there is that.
That's the other rule we forgot. Force no longer mods.
Yes.
More zeros on range 0 attacks. You cannot use them but force to mod.
So as a Republic player, that makes me a little bit sad. But as a game balance, I do think it's probably fairer. It was quite OP, let's be honest.
Yeah. And I think that change is why we didn't suddenly see all the Jedi going up in points.
No, I do.
A couple of them did, and I think a couple of them did, and it was probably right.
Yes and no. I do feel they may have they looked at every single problem with. Let's particularly talk about Barriss and Ahsoka because they're in the Delta Sevens. They're probably the 2 worst offenders, and Ahsoka was bad because she could take Chopper, but she can't take Chopper anymore because they've reduced her loadout. So that's an easy way round that one. And she's still 4 points, which is fair. She's got 7 loadout points. Barriss was, the main offender because she could take her for 3 points, and she could take concussion missiles and instinctive aim and have a 3 dice attack. So they've bumped her up to 4 and removed the missile slot. And I kind of think one or the other would have been fine.
Yeah.
I just think that combination, without the missiles, unless she's in bullseye, she's still 2 dice, and she's only 1 force. Or bump her up to 4 and let her keep the missile because you're paying an extra thing for it. But
yeah, it might have been a bit of a heavy-handed one, but I'm just glad they didn't blanket react and be like, "Oh my god, the Jedi are the problem."
No. In fact, a couple of the Anakins I think came down. So yeah.
Does this mean that we probably won't see Barriss again? Maybe, but maybe they'll realise they were a little too heavy-handed and give her the missile or drop her down to 3.
Y-wing Anakin basically just lost some loadout points, so we can't be quite as
oppressive.
And couple that with putting afterburners up to 10.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Because I do feel a lot of that stems from that Anakin build. Although afterburners has always been good. 10 points seems a little high, but
I mean, it actually seems like with some of these changes that they've realised that, oh wow, people are taking I think they wanted to just trim down on the upgrades you're taking, and make it so that some aren't just there everywhere. Because hull upgrade got banned, and then shield upgrade went up in points,
and not all of them, but I'd say the overriding theme is loadouts have just come down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that you've take Maul in the Gauntlet and Scum. He's come down from 27 to I think 20. Bear with me while I whip it up. Down to 20. So he's lost 7. So he won't be quite as obnoxious as he could be, but it's still enough to take, a decent chunk of tricks and stuff. And that seems to be the overriding theme. Trying to think if there's any standout pilots up and down. I don't know. Taking Vader Defender with 1,000,000 ties is going to be
Dooku in the Infiltrator came down a point.
Dooku came down.
And that opens up interesting. Maul in the Infiltrator stayed the exact same, but he's fine.
Gauntlet Maul went up to 9 with that 7-point loadout drop, actually, which I found quite interesting.
Yeah, but to us, he was too good.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree he was too good, but I think dropping the loadout probably cuts that. Also, they dropped Bobber in the Fire Spray down to 9 now. And so that's an interesting, which one of those do you take if you want a big heavy hitter?
Zam and Django both went down in the Fire Sprays and Separatists.
Yeah, so Zam goes back.
Zam goes back, and you can get a third ship.
You can throw in a bombardment drone and start throwing prox mines out the front if you like.
DFS 311 and start throwing out that calculate every round.
A lot of the unplayed ships, particularly I noticed in Scum, have come down a little bit. The M3As have dropped. A couple of the A-Wings have dropped.
Manaroo went up.
Honestly, much as it pains me to say this, Manaroo probably deserves to go up. He's got a bigger loadout now to go with that 5 points. That's fair. Doesn't fit into my list anymore, but hey.
Ben Rao in the Sheathipede.
Yeah.
He's the same points as AP5.
So
he's out of 1.0 jail.
Yeah. So you gotta
and he's back with a vengeance.
Stop quoting Chris.
Yeah, well, it's a good quote. Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know what Fen Rao in the Sheathipede does, before someone in Fen Rao's firing arc engages, if Fen Rao is not stressed, he can take a stress token and pick an enemy ship, and they do not get to spend tokens to mod their attack. So that's all tokens. That's focus, calculate, evade, target lock.
Yeah, that's...
So if you've got Lone Wolf and the Force, you're sorted. If you don't, or Notorious, actually, that random passive rerolls, that's fine. But a lot of things get shut down.
And let's not forget that you've got an I6 coordinate.
And you've got an I6 coordinate.
So yeah.
He's going to be an interesting one to watch out for.
Definitely interesting. What else do we?
Did anything really touch on? I don't know.
I think that's.
I don't know what to think about the Rogue class yet. The Clone Z95s look fine.
Yeah, 3 points across the board. Interesting abilities. Interesting to see where they slot in compared to the V-Wing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get them on the table. I'm literally building a Scum list with some Rogues. I've got a Republic list with some Z95s in, so hopefully we'll get those recorded and reviewed probably in the next month or so. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Is there anything that was badly unbalanced that didn't get sorted? I mean, Grievous basically got nerfed with the shield upgrade going up.
Yeah, Grievous got sorted because shield upgrade, outmaneuver, and afterburners all went up, and those are the 3 things he liked.
Yeah.
But he can still do he can still have one of the combination of things, right?
Yeah.
Grievous is now, what flavor of Grievous do you want? You can't have all of them, but you can get one.
Colonet's going up was interesting.
Yep. Well, now Ion, because remember, Ion breaks all locks you have, and you cannot gain locks whilst Ioned.
So suddenly, an I6 Ion cannon, when
it's looking interesting.
somebody of a lower initiative wants to fire a Protorp at you.
Havel looking pretty sweet.
Yes, he is. But yeah, should be interesting to get those on the table and see what it brings. Trying to think when my next X-Wing event is, and I don't actually think I've got one lined up at the moment.
Not really. We just got Tin Squadron League, right?
Yeah, but we've obviously got the Games Expo coming up next weekend, weekend after next. So it'll be interesting to see what lists come there because they are using new points.
Yeah.
I don't believe they are allowing the Rogue class or the Z95.
Yes, they're not. I have seen that posted.
That's fair, but obviously the last 2 rounds of Hexiled, the Kyber Cup, everything's legal, so will be interesting to see that. I'm pivoting faction because there's a Separatist list I want to try, and at 0-3, I don't think I can
get best in faction.
Win best in faction.
I'm still sticking with Separatists. Best in faction is anyone outside the top cut, so I'll be really sad if I'm the only Separatist in the cut.
But surely you get more prizes for being in the cut.
So. I hope so. We'll find out. I'm to be honest, my Kyber list is not looking at changing all that much. Vizsla drops his Colonets because it's too expensive and gains a veteran tail gunner for loads of options of bonus attacks.
I mean, yeah, that seems pretty good.
Grievous drops his shield upgrade, and so just has outmaneuver, impervium plating, and Solar Swan. And then my 4 vultures all gain names. We've got 2 Howard Child prototypes with energy shells and 2 Separatist drones with Discord missiles.
Nice. And yeah, we'll bring you that probably the week after next. Next week we'll catch up on my round 3 match, and anyone who was paying attention knows how that goes already.
Yeah.
But it was I lose, but by a point.
Oof, that sounds close.
I think 23-22, or it might have been 22-21. But it was a really interesting match, a really good match against some First Order. So we'll bring you that one next week. And on that note of anticipation, I think we'll call it there for this week. So
yeah.
I'll just say goodbye.
Goodbye from me. Ta-ta.
Toodles. Okay.